Good afternoon, class. I wanted to take some time to talk to you about the content we've covered in Module 4 and the literature outline that's coming due real soon. So first, I wanted to talk about measurement. Now, what's integral to understand about measurement is the levels of measurement because they lay the foundation on what type of assessment we'll need and what type of analysis should be conducted. So when we talk about the levels of measurement, I want you to think about no oil in rivers, okay? No oil in rivers. So the first um, um, no stands for nominal, which is the least robust. And it goes all the way to ratio, which is the most robust. So we would use more statistical analyses for ratio or interval level data than nominal or ordinal, okay? So nominal data, I want you to think about named variables, okay? So we're talking about things like sex, male or female, or county of residence. A number value is not evident. It doesn't mean that a number value can't be assigned, like you can make one male, two female, or vice versa in your database whenever you're entering the data to give it a numerical value, but it really means nothing. That number is assigned to a name, and the name is the level of the variable, which is nominal, okay? Ordinal would be next, and when we're talking about ordinal, we're talking about an order, okay? So there's an order to the variable. Class rank or t-shirt size, both are good examples. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, large, medium, extra large, so on and so forth. But there's a direct order to that variable, but it's not a numerical order, okay? Um, Interval is really when we're starting to talk about true existing numbers, but there's no true zero in interval, and that gets really confusing for people. So I want you to understand that um, um, that there is not the absence of the variable, okay, in this scenario. So what I mean by that is if we look at temperature, there's a zero in temperature, but temperature is an interval level data because there's no absence of temperature. So zero doesn't mean that the temperature is non-existent. It just means that that's the number assigned for that level of temperature, okay? So that's not a true zero. When we're talking about a true zero, we're talking about a complete absence of a variable. And that's when we get into ratio level data, okay? Ratio level data is the most robust, and there's a presence of the true zero. What we really think of when counting money, you can have no money, right? You can have $0. You can have zero participants. You can have a myriad of different scenarios where ratio level data is present, okay? So just to touch base, no oil in rivers, nominal, least robust, to ratio, most robust, okay? So the level of measurement is determined by the variables you have chosen. And when we're choosing our variables and defining those variables, that process is called operationalization. Okay, so understanding the level of measurement and the variables you have chosen and how you define them are all part of that process. The level of measurement also determines your instrument used. If you know a lot about a certain phenomenon you want to study, you might choose an existing data, which is data collected by someone else, or develop a survey with provided options for responses. For example, gender, or excuse me, sex, A, female, B, male, one female, two male, and in that line. If you don't know a lot about the phenomenon, you need to do more open-ended questioning or observation. And that would probably be more like nominal level data, although both that I've just discussed are really nominal level. If you're planning to measure a phenomenon, it's best to use an existing scale or an assessment, like the SASE for substance abuse or the Beck inventory for depression. These existing scales can be identified through looking at your current literature, where others have measured the same variables. And it's important whenever we use these existing measures that they're probably going to be more valid and they're going to be more reliable than ones that we would make up for ourselves. And why would we reinvent the wheel? If a researcher is using a measure to measure whatever outcome uh, um, you're studying, um, then it's more than appropriate to use that same assessment or measure. Um, for one of the major reasons is the reliability and validity. So when we're talking about reliability, we're talking about, are you getting the same outcome? Are you getting the same answer every time? Is it reliable? Okay. Now remember, with reliability, your answer can be reliably wrong. We'll get to that in an example here in a second. But with validity, we're looking at, are we measuring what we intend to measure? Is it an accurate measurement for what we're determining? You know, the Beck inventory has been determined as a reliable, or excuse me, as a valid measure for depression. So to break this down very simply, what I want you to do is I want you to think about scale. Okay, now if I'm on a diet and I set my scale to 5 pounds less than the actual weight, and I step on that scale every time and get 185 pounds. So I step on the scale, 185 pounds. 2 days later, step on the scale, 185 pounds. A week later, step on the scale, 185 pounds. It's giving me a reliable measure, but it's not an accurate measure. So if we were to set the scale to 0 and I get 190 pounds, then the next time I get 190 pounds, and then again 190 pounds, that's both reliable because we've got the 190 each time, but it's also valid because it's measuring that the actual weight as the scale was set to 0 instead of -5. Okay? So hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight into reliability and validity. And all of this is important whenever we're starting to talk about our literature outline and what we're studying to progress throughout developing our research proposal, the final assignment for the course. So the literature outline is coming due, but it's designed to help you put together trends in the literature. You know, I don't want you to stress over this assignment. I want you to use it as a helpful tool for whenever you organize your literature review. It doesn't need to be in paragraph form, but it should provide insight into each trend that has become evident in the literature. If you're going to talk about two specific areas, mention what those are. And you might also find it helpful to include the author's last names for those areas in which you want to discuss that you've found the literature from. Um, Again, this assignment is an organizational assignment. It's not cast in stone. It's basically in an effort to have you look at your literature earlier and devise what you believe are the trends that you want to discuss in your later literature review, which is due part of your as part of your proposal. Okay. For an extra credit opportunity that will be posted under major assignments. And if you have any questions that come up, always feel free to reach out to me. It's what I'm here for. I love to talk with students. And I hope you found this week's video insightful and helpful. All right, have a great day.